All right, so it is 9:10 at night currently. I ended up going to the same friend that I mentioned in a previous vlog. I ended up going to his house and kind of hanging out, ordering in some Mexican food, so that was a good time. So that gives you a little bit of explanation for the scenery change. But I did get to totally finish the Black Condition Featuring Narcissus. And this was a really excellent poetry book. I definitely want to reread it. I tried to take my time with it. I was reading it over a couple of days, but I think that this would definitely be good for a reread just because there's so much packed in here. This is mostly autobiographical, like based off of their experience, although they use kind of some imagery of the mythology around Narcissus. They end up talking about self-image, particularly in the context of romance and gender. They also talk about race. There are even a few pieces on family specifically as well. They kind of go between different styles. There are some pieces in here that are written as songs. Towards the end, there's a little bit of mixed media as well, where there are some pictures involved. And this was just a really great book. Like, I think this is another one of those that I'm going to come back to multiple times, and I definitely want to get some of Jayy Dodd's other poetry books. Now, so far as the rest of the night goes, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing. I'm not sure if I'm feeling eco-socialism right now, so I may read Persepolis, but I do think that first I'm going to chill out for a little while, watch some YouTube videos, and then if or when I get to reading, I'll check back in and talk about it. Alright, it is 2 a.m. I spent a little bit of time watching videos, and then I started to work on a new D&D character. But after that, I decided to work on reading Persepolis. I started reading this in May, and I read the first part of it. This actually originally came out as 4 comics. Eventually, the comics were released in 2 different books, so 1 and 2, and then 2 and 3. So I technically read the first book in May, but I just read what would be Persepolis 2, so the second book with the 3rd and 4th volumes, and I was able to finish that tonight. And it was a really good experience. Persepolis is a graphic memoir about the author's experience growing up in Iran. This takes place, I think, starting in the late 70s or possibly early 80s. If I remember correctly, the dates for her being in high school were like 84, and then she was in college at around 92 or 94. So that's sort of the timeline. I mean, this was really great overall. It was really interesting to see all of the different people throughout her life. I think there were a lot of strong characters. I know that this is nonfiction, but I think you still got a really good idea of a lot of the different people in her life. It was also really interesting to see this bit of history that I'm not used to. I'm in the United States, so unfortunately we don't get to hear a whole lot about places like Iran, other than in kind of the context of when I grew up, where there was just war going on in Iraq and Iran, and there was a lot of kind of uneducated discussion that, of course, I was able to listen in on kind of as a kid, but none of it was really cohesive. So it was also interesting to get to see the history that I never learned about. But on top of that, there's a whole lot that this says just about how people can cope. She specifically talks about kind of her own personal experiences with trauma. She talks about growing up in the middle of wars and regime changes and different things like that. And the realities of being in the middle of it, and also trying to cope afterwards in different ways, especially while you're around a lot of different people who are coping in different ways. This also says a decent amount about immigration as well, because she does have to move to another country at some point, and she talks about going there and then coming back and the problem of not really fitting in either place after she comes back. There is definitely a lot to take out of this, and I highly recommend it. I think that in particular, graphic memoirs can serve really well people who aren't really used to reading nonfiction. I think that it's a really easy way to go in. I also think that in general it's just a unique medium, and it makes it more like a story, I think, than some memoirs are. Honestly, I don't think that I've read any bad graphic memoirs. Fun Home and My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness were both wonderful. I read Genderqueer, and that was really great as well. So yeah, overall this was really good. Hopefully I can find access to the film that was based off of this. I'm pretty sure the author also animated it or had a hand in animating it. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm excited to try to find it at some point anyways. But that is something that I will be doing a different day because, like I said, it's 2 a.m. and it's time for bed. So I will see you all in the morning.